At 10 o'clock, stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of breaking news, challenging views and dynamic debate. Get stuck in, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Wednesday, January the 7th. Here's what's coming up. Police ethics boss Craig Guilford stands accused of, in a very unethical way, lying through his teeth. The West Midlands Chief Constable denied to Parliament that he collaborated with the Islamists and invented reasons to ban Jewish football fans from Aston Villa's ground in Birmingham. But clearly, MPs found it very difficult to believe a word this top cop said. Kemi Badenoch is leading the chorus of disapproval and demanding that Guilford is sacked. Should he be? 0344 499 1000. In other news, Labour unveils its nanny state plans to reduce drink driving limits to 1 teaspoon of beer or something like that. Is this just Keir's controlling crew bossing us around again? Do the laws really need changing for the first time since 1967? Or will giving this draconian crackdown the green light be a great day for road safety? It's certainly not going to be a great day for pub landlords who say this will force even more boozers to call time forever and shut up shop. 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, the highly important move by Labour's language police to ban calling mobility scooters invalid carriages. Keir's crew say the term is offensive. Is it? Does anyone care? Why don't these puritanical politicians get a life? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, as Reform UK's Lee Anderson reveals he has stopped paying his TV licence because he doesn't want to fund the pensions of the perverts he says still stalk the BBC's corridors of power, Channel 5 announces it's making a small-screen drama about one of the state broadcaster's top perverts, disgraced pedo newsreader Hugh Edwards. That's entertainment. Plus, if Germany and America can dramatically reduce their illegal migrant tally in a year, why can't Britain? 0344 499 1000. New figures reveal how, thanks to a few simple hardline measures, Germany halved its asylum seeker influx in 2025. The UK's intake, of course, rocketed in the opposite direction. Also tonight, can Reform UK's newly announced London Mayor candidate, Layla Cunningham, beat Sadiq Khan at the next election? And is the fact that she's a practising Muslim a factor? Bearing in mind, so is Mr. Khan. 0344 499 1000. And finally, more on the shocking story I brought to you last night that hundreds of sex offenders, including child rapists, are avoiding a punishment purely by saying sorry to their victims. Is that justice? An anti-child abuse campaigner gives her verdict to me later. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday night together. And it being Wednesday, for the first 60 sizzling minutes, I will spend them in the excellent company of Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Good evening, Isabel.
Good evening, Kev. How are you tonight?
I'm very, very well. You're very perky.
Well,
there's so much to be happy about, isn't there? Or is there? Let's kick off with this growing scandal, I think, surrounding the West Midlands Chief Constable, Police Chief Craig Guilford, who, by the way, I just found out today, he's also the Police Chief's lead on ethics. So he is the ethics guru of all police chiefs around the country. Nevertheless, he's accused of being extremely unethical and lying through his teeth about why he or his force banned Jewish football fans from attending that Aston Villa match in Birmingham. Of course, these were the fans of Tel Aviv, Maccabi Tel Aviv, who have a reputation for trouble. But Guilford's initially let it be known that he'd consulted Dutch police in Amsterdam about a Tel Aviv Maccabi game there, and that the word he got, the advice he got was, you know, don't let these fans come anywhere near, etc. Now, he was sort of trying to lay this out to Parliament as well yesterday. But the Dutch police have said, well, we didn't tell him anything of the sort. And of course, there's a very strong story that while the Tel Aviv Maccabi fans, it is true, do not have the best reputation in the world, what happened when they went to Amsterdam were there were bunches of there were huge hordes of opposing fans and indeed Muslims waiting in the wings on what they called a Jew hunt. So when the Maccabi fans arrived in Amsterdam, they were pounced upon. So they didn't start the trouble. All in all, Guildford stands accused, particularly by Kemi Badenoch today, of capitulating to Islamists and then collaborating with them to cover this whole thing up. She says, we have had enough of this in Britain. The Chief Constable's position is untenable. So what he is now saying is, well, what we were told, this is Craig Guildford, what we were told is by our Muslim community here in Birmingham, that they were so furious about the potential arrival of these Jewish fans that they would arm themselves and there would be a virtual war in Britain's second city, Birmingham. And as such, he didn't think he could keep the Jewish fans safe. Of course, what Kemi Badenoch and other critics are saying is, well, hang on a second. That is no reason to ban the fans. That is your job to make sure that they can pursue their human right to attend a match of their football club. Before I get your comments, Isabel, I'll play you a few clips from yesterday's extraordinary parliamentary committee. It was called as a kind of emergency measure as this scandal escalates. First of all, in fairness to West Midlands Chief Constable Craig Guildford, here are his thoughts on this murky situation.
It feels to us from everything we've seen that there was a need that you felt that you had to justify banning these fans and that scraping was done to find a reason.
Right. Well, that's absolutely not the case. I'm really sorry if it comes across in that way. That was absolutely not the case. The information, the intelligence that we received, that we documented, and we've shared absolutely all of that HMICFRS very recently. Was all gone through. The mistake that was made in terms of the West Ham was one individual doing one Google search because he couldn't find the other. He couldn't find the rest because it wasn't there within the system.
OK, that's what he's saying. Here's two of the MPs on that committee who are having none of this. First of all, this is Dr. Peter Prinsley.
Why are we hearing about this now? Why is it that a report come at lunchtime today from Times newspaper that you had information on the 5th of September that there were likely to be vigilante groups in the West Midlands community itself planning to take action against the Maccabi fans? How is it that this committee is just hearing this for the first time?
Well, I think this is the first time specifically that you've asked for that detail. That's what we tried. That's what we tried to get across.
So what the MP, somebody said astonishing, shocking. What the MPs are basically saying, you mean you've kept this a secret until now? Here is Labour MP Joanne Reid putting in her sixpence. Have a look at this.
What I'm getting from this so far is that there's a range of different intelligence information sources. But correct me if I'm wrong, it feels that what you have done in that process is suppressed information that isn't consistent with the decision you've made in intelligence and released and published information which supports the decision to ban the away fans.
Well, there you have it. The MPs are quite clearly not believing a word that this guy says. So this is essentially the story against Craig Guildford. It is that far from him gaining intelligence from Dutch police that these Maccabi fans would cause trouble and therefore he couldn't protect them, that he actually collaborated with the local Islamist community, the Muslim community in Birmingham, who told him, if you let these fans come here, we will take up arms and we will attack them. There will be a war. So rather than him saying what he should have done is this: I am an officer of the law, and if you do that, you will be arrested. I will not allow you to do that, and these fans will be allowed to attend their team's game. He just capitulated, collaborated, and said, well, okay, leave it with me. I'll come up with something to make it look as if the Dutch police told me so. The Dutch police saying we told him no such thing, no such thing. Kemi Badenoch leading a hell of a chorus of disapproval, demanding that this guy is sacked. I would say his distinguished career must be on borrowed time.
This is such a serious story, and it just reminded me that instinct is a powerful thing, and political instinct is something that you don't actually have to have worked at Westminster, worked around the Houses of Parliament for a long time to have. Most people have that political instinct, even if they don't know it. Now, what did that instinct tell people at the time this controversy was kicking off a few months ago? That instinct told people there's something not right here. There's something really, really fishy about this ban on the away fans coming to Birmingham. We all felt it. We all felt there was something we weren't being told. And now, sure enough, it emerges that what we weren't being told is even more shocking than we might have imagined. What we weren't being told is that there was a threat from people living in Birmingham and many others who may have come in from outside to cause a fight, that they would take up arms to have a kind of running street battle potentially with those foreign fans. That is absolutely extraordinary in itself. It is then extraordinary that the authorities who knew this apparently sought to cover it up. And what is further extraordinary is the performance of the West Midlands police representatives at that committee yesterday. I mean, guys, do you not realise that you're on a massive public platform here, and it might be a good idea to get your ducks in a row and work out how you're going to frame things so that you don't look both kind of underhand and incompetent at the same time? Because that is what looks to me that was the image they projected from that inquiry yesterday. And frankly, I think the MPs on the committee were rather more polite than perhaps West Midlands Police deserved.
Yeah, most of their answers, he was with a few of his flunkies, most of their answers were met by gasps of astonishment by the MPs, who were having none of it. Lord Walney tweeted, so not only did West Midlands Police fabricate evidence on the supposed threat from Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, quotes, by mistake, close quotes, they've just admitted they sat on genuine intelligence that local armed gangs were preparing to attack the visiting fans. It's true, isn't it? I mean, this is extraordinary. As I just said, here they turn up at this special parliamentary committee yesterday, and when it emerges, he says, oh, well, what we found out that you know, these Muslims, they were going to attack the fans, they'd taken up arms. And so the MPs go, oh, hang on a second, you never said this before. So suddenly, and then what was his answer? Well, no one asked us.
I mean, that's extraordinary in itself, isn't it? For goodness sake, you know, that in itself, I think, shows such a level of misjudgment and weakness as to make this individual unfit for the office that he holds. And there's a much wider point here, isn't there? If you take it beyond West Midlands Police, and it is about the overreach of aggressive minorities in our society who seem to be able, not only do they think that they can almost literally call the shots, they seem to actually get away with it. Here we have a fringe group, because I've no doubt that most people in Birmingham, whatever their race or religion, would have been totally lawfully welcoming of outside fans. But I'm afraid a fringe group whipped up a campaign, and there was a very organized campaign in Birmingham around this time, and they were allowed to get their way. And that is a real insight into why we are where we are with such division in our country. And it is because aggressive fringe groups of people that don't share our values are able to actually shape policy in a way that is incredibly corrosive.
Well, exactly. The local MPs, local Muslim campaigners, they got out, including, of course, Jeremy Corbyn, who isn't a local MP, but never saw an anti-Jew campaign that he didn't want to get involved in. They got together this big petition demanding that Jewish people were not allowed into Aston Villa on this night, saying it would cause community tension, etc., etc., etc. Then we subsequently heard Mr. Guildford, the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police, saying, after consultations with the Safety Action Group and stakeholders and all the usual jargon and crap they come out with, we have decided, that we cannot guarantee the Jewish fans' safety, and therefore we are banning them from attending or urging them not to attend. Maccabi Tel Aviv fell on in with it. The team, they stopped selling. They didn't sell any tickets to their fans, and therefore they didn't get to go. But what this seems to add up to is the very powerful Muslim community, particularly in the Aston area of Birmingham, where Aston Villa is, where Villa Park is. Very heavy Muslim population there, that they basically said to the police, you better not let these Jews come here. And the police said, fair enough, we won't. This is outrageous.
It is unbelievable, and I really struggle to see how the Chief Constable can keep his job. I really do. I think that it's unsustainable. I thought the whole thing was a complete scandal. Even the Prime Minister at the time was saying this is ridiculous, not quite the words he used, but I was sure actually at the time that it would be reversed. It seems so completely indefensible that West Midlands Police should be so feeble, should be so apparently unable to do their own job of keeping the community safe. And now we learn that it's so much worse than that. The guy's got to go.
Yeah, it was Ayub Khan is the the MP for Birmingham Perry Barr, which covers the area. Lots of Muslim campaigners got involved as well. Jeremy Corbyn got involved, and they basically said, keep the Jews out of Birmingham. And the police said, fair enough, we'll do that. And subsequent, this is what Craig Guildford stands accused of. Subsequent to that, he stands accused of cooking up the fact, or the dubious fact, that Dutch police told him, well, if you let these Maccabi Tel Aviv fans in, you're guaranteed to have trouble because they always cause trouble. Dutch police said, no, they were ambushed when they came here, and we told West Midlands Police nothing of the sort. We did not give them this information. I would say that Craig Guildford's distinguished career is in a lot of trouble.
Well, and it's not the first controversy around West Midlands Police, is it, on his watch? So I think his days are numbered, although these people have a hell of a habit of clinging on, don't they?
Yeah. But why is it always, we always capitulate, to the Muslim communities? I'm not going to go at Muslims, but it is always the fact that they carry so much weight. Politicians, Keir Starmer quakes at the very idea of Islam, falls on his knees. What do you need? What can I do for you? Communities all over the country. What do you need? Yes. Oh, you want that? We'll do this for you. Everybody seems to be terrified of our Islamic community. 4 million of them in this country. As far as I'm concerned, they're very welcome, but they better not keep telling us what we can and cannot do in our own country. But that said, you can't blame them for keep telling us what we can and cannot do in our own country, because the authorities always capitulate and say, all right, then we'll do exactly what you want. It's unbelievable.
Well, I think a lot of the problems stem from an inadequate and very weak Muslim community leadership in the UK, because of those 4 million, you've only got a a fraction that are the kind of hardline Islamic extremists, if you like, that we don't actually want in our country. You know, when I say we, I mean you and I don't care, but I don't think most of our listeners would want them either. Frankly, many Middle Eastern countries don't want these types of very hardline Islamists. The majority of Muslims in the UK are not like that.
Exactly,
but
of course
they
they're
don't have a good voice, do they?
Yeah. What we're talking about here, and this is what happened in the West Midlands, as far as I'm concerned, in Birmingham, was a capitulation not to the Muslim community. As you say, most Muslims are decent people like the rest of us, decent law-abiding citizens. But there is a caucus of extremists. And what we see around the country, time and time again, this is what we saw in Birmingham, if you ask me, was a capitulation not to the Muslim community, but to the extremists among that Muslim community.
That's right.
You know, that's the problem, isn't it?
That is exactly right. Now, that is a failure, I would say, of the Muslim community as a whole, because what we don't have is pushback from moderate Muslims. Now, if we had that, and we had louder, more reasonable voices from moderate Islam in the UK, then this debate would be a whole lot less toxic, wouldn't it? And I would love to see more amazing, wonderful, moderate Muslims come forward in the UK as leaders of their religion, of their faith, and actually put a bit more balance into all of this. Because right now, an awful lot is being shaped by the kind of hardliners that I don't think have a place in our communities.
Yeah. And also, by the way, by extension, particularly in this saga in Birmingham, you know, the rights of our Jewish community are trampled over. It's always, oh, do what the Muslims want, never mind the Jews. And that's something else that has to be stopped. It has to be stopped. We're talking about anti-Semitism really here, aren't we? And again, it has to be stamped out. Let's go to break, Isabel. When we come back, we'll talk about drinking and driving. That next. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, let's talk about this drink driving initiative from the government. Hard to see why they've decided to do this all of a sudden. This is the first time the drink driving laws have been changed since, this is a proposal, they haven't been changed yet, but there's been no proposals to change them since 1967. The campaigners who want this to happen say that in 2023, for example, 1 in 6 road fatalities involved drink driving. What Labour want to do, I mean, what worries me about this, you know, we all oppose drink driving. It's a terrible thing to do, and if we could stamp it out, well, that would be great, but you know, this is a free society. There must be free choice. We must be able to make our own decisions, and what worries me about this kind of government, these socialists, is they want to take our decision making away from us, and they'll make up our minds for us. So with this, they want to bring the amount of beer, for example, you could drink and still drive down to less than a pint. Less than a pint. In other words, don't even bother. And there are no real statistics to say that this will dramatically reduce road accidents or fatalities. So you wonder really exactly why Labour want to do this all of a sudden. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it feels a bit of a dead cat, doesn't it? You know, one of those sort of big distractions from the kind of massive, real, everyday things that people care about. I mean, the truth is that certainly young people are generally drinking so much less than they used to, partly because non-alcoholic beers and spirits, or kind of replica spirits, not zero alcohol, have become so good. You know, they are actually completely different from the kind of, you know, the dreary low alcohol wine, which was about all you used to be able to get in terms of low alcohol or non-alcoholic stuff. You know, it's actually a whole different market now, and it is easier, I think, socially to go to the pub and not actually to drink alcohol. That said, you know, is this really necessary? I don't know. I personally wouldn't want to go to the pub and drink the maximum that you're allowed within the drink driving limit, for example, on an empty stomach, and then rock into my car. You know, but all of this is very individual judgment, isn't it? You know, most people sort of know, you'd like to think, or at least know what their limit is when their judgment is going to be impaired. I don't know really if more legislation is needed on this. I think there's a very big issue around other things. You know, drug driving is probably a bigger issue these days.
Yeah, which campaigners say the authorities do very little about. It's still all about drinking and driving. As I say, of course, we all condemn drinking and driving. It's a terrible thing to do, and it causes terrible accidents. I heard Julia Hartley-Brewer talking this morning, and I've had the same experiences myself. If you're, many of us worked on local papers. You used to be in the magistrates' court, and there'd be, you know, these families, these mothers weeping because their son had been killed, you know, by a drunk driver. And, you know, you see a few of those cases and you think, yes, we need strict laws to make sure that people do not drink and drive. But at the same time, you know, I just worry about these socialists. I worry about Keir's crew. I worry about this Labour government, because this is about people making responsible decisions, and the vast majority of motorists make very responsible decisions. Even I don't drink and drive, so that's to, you know, prove just how far this goes. So Labour say, oh, well, we don't trust you, and we're going to give you just more laws, more laws, tell you what to do, stick our nose into your business. Bigger government, big government, and fewer and fewer powers to the individual. That's what worries me about this. I wonder, it's a good, interesting point you made there, a dead cat to try and divert from some of the other governmental problems at the moment. I mean, but it is it's sort of, it's quite bemusing as to why they've suddenly come up with this.
It is quite bemusing because there are so many other targets for interfering. If you're going to be interfering at this kind of level, I mean, there is a real issue with the demise of community pubs, and that is hollowing out villages. I see it, in fact, even in the affluent part of the Cotswolds where I am. It's not unusual to drive through a village and the pub is abandoned, and often there's a kind of community attempt to actually buy it, to club together, and the amounts of money that have to be raised are pretty daunting. They will be, because property is expensive in the south, communities are having to raise hundreds of thousands of pounds and then run stuff as a volunteer. And I do think that in the countryside, if you were to say you can't even have one glass of wine or even a couple of sips of alcohol, that probably would be yet another blow for an industry that is really struggling already, particularly with, again, the measures that Rachel Reeves has brought in on employment rights and minimum wages and extra benefits here and there, that's just making it so difficult for employers to hire people.
Yeah, exactly right. And as you say, the pub industry, the hospitality industry, pub landlords are absolutely furious about this. They've got enough problems as it is, pubs closing at an alarming rate. This will make matters even worse. I mean, Labour seems to have some sort of grudge against the hospitality industry, and that it does sort of fit in with their killjoy approach to life, or let's ban smoking in pub gardens, they won't like that, and so on and so forth. Just leave us alone. Why can't they just leave us alone?
Yeah, I don't know, Kev. I mean, the devil makes work for idle hands, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But I mean, their hands shouldn't be idle because there's so much more important stuff to be cracking on with.
Just makes you wonder what goes on in Westminster, doesn't it? What on one desk is someone going, yeah, I'm just going to bring down the limit for 1 teaspoon of beer, and on the next desk there's someone saying, yeah, you got to send some helicopters in to help Donald Trump in the North Atlantic. We're taking over another Venezuelan tanker. Priorities. You know what I mean? Unbelievable.
I'll tell you what goes on at Westminster: an awful lot of drinking, but not much driving.
Yeah, luckily they've all got chauffeur-driven cars. That's the solution. When I become Prime Minister, when I become President of this land, chauffeur-driven cars for everyone. That's a vote winner, isn't it?
Quite liking that one, yeah.
There you go. Vote for Kev. Let's go to break, Isabel. When we come back, we'll talk about Lee Anderson, Reform UK's redoubtable MP, who's got some interesting views on the BBC. We'll talk about that after these messages. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, before the break, I said we'd talk about Lee Anderson, but let's do that after the next break because this story fits in with our last story a little bit better. It's nanny state Labour again. Nanny state, you can't drink anything before you drive, all that sort of thing. No more than that much wine, that much beer. Get out of our lives. Anyway, now Labour want to ban calling mobility scooters invalid carriages because they say that that's offensive. It's an offensive term. Now, while you might think, well, all a load of tittle-tattle, who cares? Because, of course, nobody does care except stupid, puritanical MPs with nothing better to do. It will require quite a lot of taxpayers' money, this, because laws will have to be rewritten. Lots of documents will have to be rewritten because mobility scooters are perennially referred to in legal documents, in law, as invalid carriages. So Labour want to waste a load of our money changing that to just mobility scooters because invalid carriages is so offensive. Why can't these MPs, why can't these politicians get a bloody life? No one cares, am I right?
Literally no one's heard of them being called invalid carriages anyway.
Exactly, that's true.
That's the first I've heard of it. It does sound like in my mind, I'm kind of envisaging like a horse and carriage, which is carrying an ill person.
Right.
That is what it sounds like, and it's just not a problem that's there. I mean, no one spends time poring over this ancient, written record. I just don't think there's any need to change anything that's already there that can't be changed by, can't you just kind of do a Control F, find all the references to invalid carriages and change that to whatever else you want to call it? Why does that cost money? I mean, I don't see why that isn't something that could be done pretty speedily with modern computing systems. And if it can't be done speedily, then how about we just resolve that going forward, we will just use different terminology. Yeah. It's completely unnecessary, ludicrous row. The term, I think we can all agree, is farcical, it's archaic, but it's not offensive.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it back. I mean, I don't think I've ever used the term in my life. But from now on, everybody I see on a mobility scooter, I was going to look at that guy on an invalid carriage. But it gets worse. I mean, we're laughing about this, but I think this goes to the heart of what is wrong with these interfering socialist puritanical idiots. This is going to cost us, you, me, every taxpayer in Britain, a fortune. As part of this potential move to cease the use of the term invalid carriage that nobody uses anyway, the Department of Transport will be conducting a 12-week-long review.
Are you kidding me?
No, I am not kidding you. In which people, particularly disabled people, will be asked if they believe the term should be changed and what their preferred alternative term would be. Now, let me just add to this. This is the Minister for Social Security and Disability, Sir Stephen Timms. He said, "We are determined to break down barriers to opportunity for disabled people and improving access to assistive technology, as well as making sure that laws around its use are up to date. And this is essential. I encourage disabled people to respond to the Department of Transport's consultation so their views..." Now, I would say that probably nearly every disabled person in this country will have a look at, I see the Department of Transport want me to take part in a 12-week-long review. I think nearly all disabled people would say, do you know what? Funnily enough, I've got better things to do with my life. What is wrong with these people? It's unbelievable, isn't it?
I mean, you say that they won't take part in the survey, but I can assure you that there are very, very aggressive and vocal campaign groups for disabled people who will get fully stuck into this. They will create long reams of documents about why things need to be different. And I'm not dissing those groups in general. They're very much needed. You know, there's huge aspects of our society that are very poorly set up for differently abled people, if I can try to be as politically correct as I can be. But all too often, energy is devoted in the wrong way. And I just don't think this is worthy of anybody's time and attention. And I don't understand why it needs a consultation. Why are we even talking about it?
Because it's Labour. That's what they do. As I just said to you, in terms of, you know, whether or not you can have a teaspoonful of beer or a pint of beer before you get behind the wheel. You know, OK, I'm not against, you know, keeping a weather eye on drink driving. It's something that we should take seriously. But is it top of the priority list right now? Is whether or not we call mobility scooters invalid carriages on any kind of priority list? And yet for Stephen Timms and the Department of Transport, this is one seriously important. You know, these people, they just dwell on a different planet to the rest of us, don't they?
I really do think they do dwell on a different planet. Just a small thing to share with you, that here in the UAE, they call disabled people of determination. And I quite like that. I think that's a nice little phrase. But doubtless if it were used in Britain, the people of determination would be determined to be offended by that characterization. Yeah, and what about people who are actually people of determination, who aren't disabled? Would they be deprived of being called people of determination because of this euphemism? I mean, you know, I agree with you. I do quite like the sound of people of determination, but in the end, it's just another ridiculous euphemism, isn't it? It's just words. That's all it is. And actually, what the government should be concentrating on is changing realities for disabled people. You know, I'm the last person to be good at listing what the top priorities for that are, but there are so many in terms of access, in terms of getting on and off aeroplanes. That is a nightmare for disabled people. The quality, the kind of state of disabled toilets. I mean, honestly, people will go on with many, many better priorities than changing this terminology in ancient legislation. Just for information, the laws concerning mobility scooters and powered wheelchairs were originally introduced in 1970. So what this is all about is that the legislation, you know, the documented law, uses the term invalid carriage, and this government wants to spend a fortune changing that to mobility scooter or whatever the hell new word they want to use, new term they want to use. Well, as I say, I really think, you know, there are more important things to do. I really think none of us are going to lose too much sleep if we continue calling them invalid carriages in this 50-year-old law, 55-year-old law. And as you said, when was the last time you heard anyone use the term invalid carriage? I mean, come on. Unbelievable. When we come back, as I said before, we'll get on to Lee Anderson, who's had one of his classic, rather amusing outbursts in Parliament, this time about the BBC, everyone's favourite target. That next. Stick around.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor Isabel Oakeshott. Let's talk about MPs, Isabel. Of course, by a country mile, my favourite MP in all of Westminster is Richard Tice. I don't know if you know him, but my second favourite for comedy value, but also because I think he is a really good politician, is Lee Anderson. One of those rare Westminster types who tells it like it is. You know, actually, he speaks, you know, human being, doesn't he? He speaks like a man on the street, which so few of them do. And yesterday he was laying in to the BBC, explaining why he doesn't pay his BBC TV licence fee anymore. Take it away, Lee.
A whole raft of perverts that have stalked the corridors of the BBC. And none of these here will talk about this. Not one of them. And mark my words, Miss Harris, there are still these creatures stalking the corridors of the BBC, and in the future their names will come out and come back to this.
So there's Lee in classic form. I'm not sure whether we've lost it. Yeah, so yeah, there's Lee. He's basically saying that he doesn't pay his BBC TV licence fee. He hasn't paid it for 10 years because, as he put it, he doesn't want to put his money into the pension pot of perverts. Interestingly, he says that after Hugh Edwards, Jimmy Savile, Rolf Harris, you know, the list goes on, you know what we're talking about, there are more. He says there are definitely more like that still stalking the corridors of Power Up Broadcasting House. You might like to know, interestingly, as we talk, only recently, a couple of hours ago, Channel 5, or 5 as they now call themselves, have announced they're making a TV drama all about Hugh Edwards. That's entertainment. That should be fun, shouldn't it? I mean, what do you think of, what do you make of what Lee is saying there? And I just think it's very interesting that he says, mark my words, there are more. And, you know, I'm quite well connected in the showbiz television arena, and I hear the same. I hear there may be at least two more big names at the BBC who we might be hearing a lot more about in the not so distant future. Interesting.
Yeah, what a depressing thought that is. So I haven't spoken to Lee Anderson about this at all, but, you know, for any politician to say it in that way, mark my words, you know, there are, it does make it sound as if he knows something that we don't know. But I think more broadly, what that probably points to is that change is coming for the BBC and its licence system. And actually, you know, Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, has pretty much said as much herself, although I doubt this Labour government will go that far on it. But Nigel Farage, the Reform leader, has been about as blunt in different words as Lee Anderson when it comes to his disdain of the BBC licence fee payer system. And he's been very, very stark about it, hasn't he? He has said if there is a Reform government in future, and it's an if Nigel Farage were to become Prime Minister, the BBC would be looking at a very, very different world. I think they would be having to scale right back in terms of what they would be getting from the public purse, and they would have to justify their existence on a much more commercial basis, like all other media outlets like our own have to do. So change is coming for the BBC, and you know, I'm almost not sure it needs any more scandals to convince, certainly not to convince Reform's leadership that something needs to be done. You kind of wonder what the point of any more scandals is. You know, we've had so many, haven't we? And were there to be more, what more will it tell us? We know that this whole edifice, this whole establishment is rotten.
Exactly right. And the Christmas TV ratings, BBC crowing about, oh, we had 9 of the top 10 most watched shows. Well, yeah, that's always the case. The fact of the matter was they were 16-20% down on last year. And in fact, none of those programmes, none of the BBC programmes made the top slot. That was the King's Speech. That's never happened before. And, you know, programmes like EastEnders, which back in the 1980s once got 33 million people watched it on Christmas Day when Angie presented Dirty Den with divorce papers. I still haven't quite got over the shock of that. 33 million people watched that. 2.8 million watched the EastEnders Christmas Day special this year. So a dramatic decline from last year. Last year, their big programme, Gavin and Stacey, got 12 million live and 19 million after people had watched it on the BBC iPlayer as well. So big figures, 19 million. This year their top programme was 4.2 million. Dramatic decrease. Now they'll talk about, with some justification, you know, the changing television landscape, the move away from terrestrial, YouTube, independent viewing, so, you know, streaming and so on. They've got some justification with that. But what they won't talk about, which I think is at the heart of this, is that the British public have fallen out of love with Auntie Beeb. They don't love her anymore. They don't like her even. You've got Labour who cling on to, give BBC everything it wants. It's public sector broadcasting. It's not commercial. We love that. So, you know, that's their view of it. But loads of Tories, right-wing MPs go, don't criticise the BBC because the British public loved the BBC. No, they don't. Not anymore. Everything is changing, I think.
Yeah, I haven't seen any polling on this recently, but I'm sure that everything is changing for a combination of reasons. One, yes, the whole media landscape is changing. You know, you and I know this only too well in the privileged seats in which we sit, and we've all got to adapt. You know, it's the same for print media. People are consuming their information in a very different way. But secondly, because the BBC is tainted. I mean, it just is tainted. You know, when you have a huge figure like Hugh Edwards exposed for being something totally other than what we all thought, that is immensely damaging. And coming on the back of other cases of what Lee Anderson would characterise as perverts, is tremendously damaging. And I think, you know, fast forward 10 years from now, how is this going to look? I still think the BBC is a valuable global export. It still has, frankly, more credibility probably outside the UK than it actually does have within the UK. You know, around the world, people are nowhere near as critical of the BBC as we in the UK are. Yeah. Simply because they don't follow all these, you know, slightly smutty, low-rent scandals. You know, they just know the BBC for producing, you know, what they see as credible reporting from war zones and places like this.
Do they? Because we don't. I mean, that's half the problem. Their coverage of Gaza has completely shot their reputation for fair, balanced, fine journalism to pieces. It's been shot to pieces. The people of Britain don't trust the BBC anymore. They don't trust its journalism, which is shocking. Now, as you were implying, I'm not against the BBC. Far from it. You know, I think, you know, particularly people who work there. I've got a lot of friends who work there. The BBC, fine. What I am against is its business model. Us being forced by law to pay it the best part of £180 a year, and if we don't, we get fined or even possibly sent to prison. That's got to stop. And it would be good for the BBC, because the BBC, because it gets once a year £3.8 billion in TV licence fee money, £3.8 billion once a year, it's made it lazy and lackadaisical. It doesn't bother to make programmes necessarily that people are that interested in, because it doesn't have the commercial imperative. It needs the commercial imperative, and that will improve the qualities of its programmes. We need to change this TV licence fee system, and fast. It's anachronistic, out of time.
Absolutely, and I think it's actually extraordinary that the Conservatives, who had all those years to do it and were under a lot of pressure from a lot of Conservative supporters to actually make those changes, basically did nothing at all. It is going to happen, I'm sure of it, and that will be for the better. Perhaps the output will be better quality. And, you know, in terms of bias in international reporting, I don't think we know the half of it because, you know, for example, on the Israel-Gaza situation, so much of the bias is in Arabic, and you and I aren't sitting there being expert in that, are we? And the other beef I have with it, and this is an important one, is actually there's far too much emphasis on random stories from countries, you know, that really have very little to do with Britain. It's supposed to be the British broadcasting operation. You know, I don't want to see at the top of the homepage some story about, you know, witch doctors in Nigeria or something.
They do a lot of that. I mean, Women's Hour, very rarely does it ever refer to Britain. I mean, it's like a sort of around the world view of women everywhere. Women's Hour, of course, being the epicenter of BBC inaccuracy insofar as it has never been an hour. It's like 45 minutes. It's never been an hour. It's 45 minutes. But yeah, the BBC has got to change. But interesting what Lee Anderson was saying, and I'm sure he didn't say that lightly. I think you're absolutely right. And I've heard the same. There are at least two big names there who may have an uncomfortable year this year. And if they do, if we get more sort of Hugh Edwards, Jimmy Savile, Rolf Harris type scandals, even Greg Wallace from MasterChef, the BBC will be in a world of trouble, Isabel, fantastic to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for a great hour. That's Talk's international editor Isabel Oakeshott. When we come back, we're going to talk about the migrant crisis. Germany, in 1 year, in 11 months, has halved the number of asylum seekers coming to the country. Why can't we do that? We'll discuss that next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Apologies to those of you who usually listen on the radio, and if you switched over to watch my fantastic features here on YouTube, much appreciated. Thank you for doing that. And those of you who've done so, and those of you who always watch on YouTube, good to have you on board as always. But please give me a call if you want to talk about any of the issues tonight. You might want to talk about this next one, which is the migrant crisis and our failure to tackle it, and the remarkable success not only of Donald Trump in America, but also here in Europe, of Germany over the last year. More than halved its intake of asylum seekers with a couple, not very many, simple hardline measures. Its tally is down to 106,000 over the last. Actually, it was for 11 months last year, 2025. In 2024, it was 229,000, nearly 230,000. So it's hugely down, just with a few simple measures that it strikes me we could bring in here in Britain, but we don't. I wonder why that is. Let's talk to the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control, the excellent Mr. Robert Bates. Good evening, Robert.
Good evening, Kev.
What do you make of this? So this is the Conservative with the small c, Chancellor Friedrich Merz, a sometimes sort of pal of Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer tried to make him his big friend. But Merz seems to me the kind of leader that we could do with instead of Starmer, because he came in on a ticket saying, I will get to grips with our migrant crisis. And what he brought in was he ordered the police at the borders to turn back all undocumented foreigners. So if you turn up, without the right documents, without a visa, you won't get in. So that's what's been happening. He also scrapped humanitarian refugee intake schemes. Do-gooder type schemes. Oh, they must come here, they're escaping war of torture and all that. He scrapped that. And his last measure, these are three fairly simple things, was he stopped family reunification. So, the system here is one guy comes in to Britain, and then 3 months later his 7 relatives turn up. Merz stopped all that, and the net result is that in 2024 229,751 illegal migrants got into Germany, or asylum applications. Last year 106,298 asylum applications, and falling. So if you bring in the right measures, it's not rocket science. Meanwhile, of course, over in America, old Donald Trump has slashed illegal immigration by about 95%. What it proves, Robert, is the problem we have here, it's not technical, it's a question of resolve. If you have the resolve, you could sort this out. I mean, why aren't we stopping all people without documents at our borders? We're not. We're not only not stopping them, we're welcoming them in. We're giving them a 4-star hotel, 50 quid a week, free lawyers, free doctors, free dentists, and free everything else you can possibly imagine, free food and so on and so forth. And therefore, our problem keeps going up. Germany's is going down fast. Not rocket science, is it?
The whole situation is very easily solvable. So Germany, of course, its asylum system was operating at almost suicidal levels for a long period of time. And I don't think we should easily forget sort of what Angela Merkel did to Europe in 2015, where she effectively threw open the doors to 1 million or so. But the direction of travel clearly shows that these measures are having an impact. And you contrast, for instance, the idea of turning back individuals at the border. Well, in Britain, we're picking them up in the Channel and taking them in to our country. When it comes to the family reunion, the Labour government's asylum plans will be looking to make sure that route remains in place. When it comes to these humanitarian routes, the Labour government is actually now going to be talking to an international organisation called the UN High Commissioner for Refugees and taking commands effectively as to how many individuals we take from around the world. And the key measure here, actually, that the Germans are implementing is they're not afraid to deport individuals back to countries that we wouldn't dare do. So Afghanistan, for instance, is a major problem in Britain when it comes to the small boats. But we just simply will refuse to send any individual back. And the result is an accumulating illegal migrant Afghan population in this country, many of whom are disappearing, most of whom, a large proportion of whom are committing, it would seem, violent crimes and crimes against women and girls in this country. Germany aren't being bound by this ECHR. They're not tying themselves in knots. They are saying, no, if you come from Afghanistan, you go back to Afghanistan. And quite frankly, I think that's where we need to head towards as well, because this is an exploding situation in our country. Whilst Germany's numbers are dropping, ours have hit a record level in the last year. So the number of asylum applications are surging under Keir Starmer. The number of individuals that are being deported after arriving on a small boat are falling under Keir Starmer and this government as well. So our situation seems to be getting a lot worse, whilst Europe more generally seems to be getting a grip with its problems.
Yeah, and Merz is not some sort of, tub-thumping right-wing lunatic. In fact, he's facing serious pressure to organise mass deportations of illegal migrants that he doesn't want to do. So what he is, in my view, as far as I can, he's a sensible man who's bringing in sensible measures. And like so many other countries in Europe, France, for example, if necessary, Germany will turn round to the ECHR and say, no, thanks very much. We're going to do what's best for our country. We, of course, here in Britain, everything the ECHR says, we take it like a kind of an order from above, from the Lord himself, and we have to obey. So our subservience to the ECHR is almost unique in Europe. So all told, the problem here is too much subservience to the ECHR and a complete lack of resolve to bring in some sensible measures. If you haven't got any documents, if you're illegal, you can't come in. Why don't we do that?
I do think we are unique for the reasons that you mentioned. We are weirdly subservient to the ECHR in large part because of, as we discussed previously on the immigration tribunals and so forth. We've also got a crazy habit of sort of throwing taxpayers' money at open border charities and giving them a really comfortable charitable status that provides them with a lot of perks and allows them to continue effectively keeping our borders open. And all these measures that Germany are taking, all the measures being taken in Eastern Europe, all the measures being taken in Southern Europe to clamp down on this, all have the impact as well of making Britain look like even more of a soft touch when you consider that we are, as you mentioned, throwing money at the accommodation, throwing money at these treats and these trips to Anfield and so forth, which I'm always really bitter about as a Liverpool fan. Free trips to Anfield really does hurt me. But all these kind of goodies, and then on top of that,
pay me to go there.
And then all these on all these other elements as well, this sort of help with legal cases, this sort of round-the-clock welfare support, absolutely everything. And I do wonder what sort of the view of Britain is in European capitals, because they must frankly think we are absolutely balmy. We seem to be going in the complete opposite direction. I don't know whether it's because we've sort of woken up to this peril slightly later than European countries that saw huge explosions in the last decade, but I think actually probably we are going to continue to be an international outlier, at least whilst this Labour government is in power, because what they are doing and what they are putting forward in their proposals for asylum is really unlike anything else you do see on the continent. They're effectively saying, come into Britain, break into Britain on a small boat, and we are going to put you on a path to settlement. We're going to put you on a path, therefore, to citizenship as well. Rather than actually saying, no, you've come into the country illegally, you're being deported, we're rewarding them for that behaviour. So we've got our behavioural priorities and the way we understand what is causing these flows completely the wrong way around, and we're actually increasing pull factors rather than introducing any push factors.
Exactly right. And by the way, perhaps it's unreasonably early days to talk about this, but Shabana Mahmood's much vaunted crackdown, all these measures she was boasting about a month ago, wasn't it? She spent the weekend touring the TV studios. All the newspapers dutifully ran huge stories saying, Mrs. Tough Boots, she's going to crack down, she's going to stop this, she's going to do this, she's going to do that. And as we said at the time, I do believe, you and I, Robert, that well, if you don't leave the ECHR and you don't stop bowing and scraping to the ECHR, none of this will make any difference at all. So what happened to all those measures she was talking about? Because, by the way, already the migrants have started arriving this year. The first crop, admittedly small, came over on the 5th of January, which was Monday, 32 on a single boat. So they've begun to arrive. The 26th tally has begun. I don't see any signs or indications that Shabana Mahmood's alleged hardline crackdown has made any difference at all, nor does it stand much chance of.
No, so what's happened with that asylum plan is they put it open to a consultation, which effectively means they've gone to those left-wing charities and said, oh, can we have your thoughts on this? So what was presented as really tough, although actually when you looked at the detail was really actually a loosening of the asylum system, is going to be further watered down once that process has taken place. And you talk about the fact that we've already seen crossings this year. We're on the cusp of a very significant milestone I think could be really damaging for the Labour government, which is that actually the next couple of boat crossings will mean that Keir Starmer is the Prime Minister that has seen the most small boat migrants arrive in Britain. He's beating Boris Johnson's record soon of 65 or so thousand. That's a significant moment because these then officially become the Starmer boats. There is no doubt about it.
Starmer boats, yeah.
More than anyone else. And I think at that point, really, actually, this whole idea of blaming the Tories, who are at fault for starting this problem, begins to fade because it's the Labour government that have poured petrol on this crisis. And it's the British public that are going to have to suffer as they watch their country being invaded for the next 3 or so years.
Well, while we're on the subject of the migrants who actually successfully get here, too many of them, more than 41,000 last year, where they reside is becoming more and more of an issue. So we've got this Labour government that never stops telling us, well, I'll stop using hotels, too expensive, you know, as if as long as we can get all the migrants out of hotels, that's the crisis solved. Not really. We're not that bothered where you put them. We want them to stop coming. We want you to stop the boats. But it seems to be a world of confusion about what they're actually doing with these migrants. For example, just before Christmas, they closed down the Napier barracks in Folkestone, where at one point I think there were as many as 450 migrants. Overnight they disappeared. The word was they were going to Crowborough, the army base in East Sussex, which has still not yet welcomed the first of its allotted 540 migrants, all men, by the way, into its local army training base. So the word was they were going there, but they haven't turned up there. So you wonder, what is going on? It's as if they're moving pieces around the chessboard with no apparent strategy or plan, just putting them everywhere. Well, frankly, it's just a shambles, isn't it?
It is a shambles, and they promise, of course, to close the hotels and to reduce the use of hotels. Well, under Labour, the use of hotels has gone up, so there's a broken manifesto promise as well. I think the problem they're facing is that actually, on the one hand, they've got really, really justifiable local opposition. No one wants, especially in Crowborough, where I think it would be effectively, you know, one in 20 people there would be asylum seekers once this base is opened up, which is crazy to realise just how much of an imposition it would be on that local community. So local communities quite clearly don't want them on their doorstep. But the other side of the equation, they've got sort of these rabid left-wing activists and rabid left-wing backbenchers screaming about the conditions that you do see in anything that isn't effectively a 4-star luxury hotel with round-the-clock spa treatment. And unfortunately for the Labour government, they are stuck between a rock and a hard place here. They're also struggling to actually find suitable accommodation in the country. We've got such a tight housing market at the moment that there isn't, a surplus of properties that they can easily just disperse these individuals into, which is actually the reason why we are using so many hotels in the first place. So whichever way they turn, they're running into a dead end. And actually, they need to just recognise that the way to deal with the problem of where do you house asylum seekers is to stop asylum seekers coming into the country in the first place and to stop people being able to exploit our largesse. And until they make this very significant revelation, it would be for them that actually the problem is the numbers, not just the ability to place them in different locations around the country. It's not going to go away, and the costs are going to continue spiralling. 4.9 billion it was in the last financial year. I can well see it approaching 6 billion in the next couple of years, just given the mess that these ministers are presiding over.
And you mentioned just now, Robert, that as part of Shabana Mahmood's proposed asylum changes, amendments to the system, that the Labour government is busy consulting various charities, asylum seeker charities, migrant charities, consult. When it comes to local communities who may all of a sudden have 540 foreign men living among them, many of them who don't even speak English or aren't documented, nothing much known about them, this is what's going to happen to the poor people of Crowborough, they haven't been consulted at all. They do not consult local communities about whether or not they fancy the idea of 500 migrants living among them, do they? This is a disgrace. It's a disgrace.
Exactly, and these individuals are effectively smuggled in the dead of night. So someone will go to sleep and then wake up in the morning, and they'll find that the hotel at the end of the road has suddenly been utilised to fill and filled with, you know, dozens of unvetted men from parts of the world that perhaps are very, very precarious, but distilling individuals from those countries certain attitudes that are very, very worrying. So this is part of the reason why people are so angry. It is this sense of a loss of control, this sense that actually there's this political establishment that exists so remotely and is just inflicting misery after misery on people that have that, you know, go to work, pay their taxes, try and make a better life for themselves, and they're just seeing a community that they might have grown up in just completely upended, transformed overnight, and have had no say in the process. And then when they do try and fight back like they did in Epping, you get judges, immigration judges, telling them that actually their concerns are secondary to the welfare of the illegal migrants. We are really living now in a two-tier country where it is those that have broken in, those that have made spurious asylum claims sort of elevated and held aloft and given all the delights of the British state, and those that are actually paying for the British state are really, really being pushed down, kicked and besmirched for even voicing any concern about the situation.
Nobody made enough of all of that at the Bell Hotel in Epping, where the local residents triumphed at first in the High Court, saying that this place should be closed down, bad for the community, against planning permission and all that sort of thing. The Labour government, of course, who said we're going to stop using hotels, spend a hell of a lot of money going to court to fight that case to keep the Bell Hotel open. So you can take their plans to not use hotels anymore with a pinch of salt. Last question, Robert. We're at the beginning of the year. This time next year, throughout the year to come, any cause for any optimism at all on this issue? Because I don't see any.
I really struggle to see as well. I just can't see. The Labour government has run out of road now. It's played all its cards that it is prepared to play. It won't do anything radical to change the human rights framework or anything as such. And I do think we'll probably see another figure akin to last year. I mean, it would probably have been higher last year if it hadn't been for December effectively saving Keir Starmer and a few weeks of bad weather, meaning that the numbers crossing did slow down somewhat. So I don't, you know, pending what happens in the weather and in next winter, I could see actually probably us approaching 50 or so thousand, which again is, you know, a staggeringly high number and something that we shouldn't have to put up with.
And don't forget, I think it was about a month ago, for maybe 5 weeks, the Labour government actually said we do not expect the numbers of cross-channel small boats to come down at all in the next year. So all extremely bleak. I'm sure we're talking about this 2026, Rob. Always good to talk to you, mate. Thank you very much. Robert Bates, Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. When we come back, Layla Cullingham, the Reform UK councillor, used to be a Tory councillor, and she has been chosen by Nigel Farage to be the mayoral candidate here in London. She will take on Sadiq Khan at the next London mayor election. What chance does she have? And is it a factor that she's a practicing Muslim? Some people are saying so. Some people are having a go at Reform UK to say, oh, you capitulated to the Muslims. Well, you know, is that a factor? Is it? And might it not be quite a good idea? Because lest we forget, Mr. Khan, Sadiq Khan, the incumbent mayor, is also a Muslim. Fighting fire with fire, maybe. Not a bad tactic, or is it a bad tactic? What do you think? 03444 991 1000. Let's talk about that next. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, today Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader, unveiled his not very secret weapon. Layla Cunningham, the current or former Tory councillor who joined Reform amid many headlines, she will be Reform UK's mayoral candidate here in London against Sadiq Khan. Now, the question will be, can she win? Can she beat him? And the other question is it significant that Layla is a practising Muslim? Some people seem to think it is. Some people are having a go at Reform UK about it. Others say, well, perhaps it's a masterstroke because, of course, Sadiq Khan is a Muslim as well. Anyway, either way, before we talk to Reform UK's London Assembly member Alex Wilson, here is Layla hailing her triumph today.
As Nigel has said, today we are announcing that I'm standing to be the next Mayor of London. Now, I know that we're still 2.5 years away, but the election on May 7th is the first step. It's the first step to reclaiming our city. Now, these local elections, I tell everyone, will be a referendum on Sadiq Khan, on Labour's broken London. It's Londoners' chance to vote out every councillor who's propped him up and stayed silent while he's let our city down. From now until May, I will be spearheading our campaign, touring every borough, because for the first time in years, Londoners finally have a real alternative: Reform. And unlike Labour or Tories, we won't defend a status quo that doesn't work for the voters.
Powerful words. Let's speak to Reform UK's London Assembly member Alex Wilson. Hi, Alex.
Good evening, Kevin. Great to be with you.
Thanks for joining us. Well, first off, a good speech by Layla, who I know personally quite a bit. She's a mother of 7. She's a criminal lawyer, a long-term Tory councillor, switched to Reform some months ago, of an extremely redoubtable, impressive and accomplished woman, good talker, as we've just seen, a favourite guest of ours here on Talk. We love the good talkers. That's why you're on, Alex. What are her chances?
Oh, very, very strong. I mean, you saw from the press conference today, she is an absolute force of nature, very passionate, very experienced, and very committed to turning around this great capital city that we live and work in. You know, we've had Sadiq Khan as mayor now since 2016. On his watch, crime is out of control. You know, knife crime up 2/3, burglary in outer London effectively decriminalised, shoplifting decriminalised. And we've become the mobile phone theft hotspot of the Western world. So, you know, huge things going wrong in London, particularly on that crucial issue of crime and safety and policing. And Layla's an absolutely brilliant candidate to hold Sadiq to account, as I'm doing in the Assembly on a daily basis, but she'll be doing it through the campaigning, through the local elections in May and beyond up to 2028. And she has a very, very real chance of winning. If you look at the polling, even here in London, you know, Reform is the challenger now. 3 out of the last 4 London voting intention polls have put Reform in clear second place, ahead of the Conservatives, ahead of the Greens, ahead of the Lib Dems. If you want to get Sadiq Khan out, if you want to get your Labour councillors out in May, there's only one way to do that. That's voting Reform.
And was it the last election when Sadiq Khan beat Sean Bailey, the Tory, who didn't really make too much effort because he thought it was a foregone conclusion that he would lose? And the vote was actually surprisingly close. At one point, I remember, during the count, Bailey was thought to be ahead. And a lot of people said, well, if only he'd made any effort, he might have won that. So this idea that Sadiq Khan, that London for Sadiq Khan is an impregnable stronghold, I think was challenged at the last election. And as you say, stands a big chance of being challenged at the next election.
Absolutely. And when Sean stood, it was actually 2021.
So was that the one before? Yeah.
It was the one. The last 2 mayoral elections, the margin by which Sadiq has won against Sean in 21 and against Susan Hall in 2024 was less than the margin by which the Labour candidates won their assembly seats. So Sadiq Khan is definitely a drag on the Labour vote, and it's because of his record on crime, on housing. London is now more and more impossible to get on the housing ladder for purchase or for rent. A lot of that's down to him. On transport, we're the most congested capital city in Western Europe. Again, that's down to him and his cycle lanes, his 20 miles an hour, his bus lanes, all that nonsense. And we have graffiti and fare evasion run rampant on the TfL network. So all those issues he's failing on. He's definitely a drag on the Labour vote, and an alternative candidate like Layla, who I think will do a brilliant job for the party. And if she's elected as Mayor of London, she'll do a brilliant job as Mayor of London. I'm very excited about the next 2.5 years, starting with those local elections in May, and then building beyond that, heading towards that mayoral election in 2028. It's a really exciting time to be involved in politics, particularly here in London and particularly with Reform UK.
And a lot of action on social media this afternoon. Some people saying, "Oh, Reform UK have capitulated to the modern ways, and they shouldn't have chosen a Muslim because, of course, Layla is a practicing Muslim." I mean, I would suggest, well, perhaps that's not a bad idea, considering the guy she's up against is also a practicing Muslim, as in Sadiq Khan. But what do you say to critics who say Reform UK should have chosen, shall we say, a non-Muslim, a Church of England British person, classic British person? What do you say to that?
I think that's completely irrelevant. I mean, with all the parties that Nigel has led at the time that he's led them, so back when he was leader of UKIP, when he was leader of the Brexit Party, and now as leader of Reform UK, his patriotism has always been about values and integration and playing by the rules, abiding by the laws. And it's never been about the colour of your skin or the God that you choose to worship or choose to not worship. So, yes, Layla's a Muslim. I'm a C of E Anglican. Completely irrelevant. What Layla is first and foremost is a criminal barrister, a mother, someone who's lived in this city all her life and has seen those issues which have gone so badly wrong, and she's exactly going to take that fight to Sadiq on all those issues that he's doing so badly. And of course, the Labour government is doing badly as well, and the Labour councils. It's not just one; it's all three of them. At all three levels of government in London, we are so poorly served by the Labour representatives that have dominated politics here for far too long. It's time for change. It's time for reform, and it's now you've got the chance. It's Khan v Cunningham, and looking forward to that challenge.
Yeah, and Muslim people are British citizens, like the same as the rest of us. And as you say, you can hear Layla. She's a Londoner. She's been here all her life. And what about the idea that actually it might be a bit of a masterstroke, because there is a significant Muslim vote in London, and Sadiq Khan would always expect to soak that up being a Muslim. Well, now he's got a Muslim challenger. It might be quite a good move by Reform.
Well, there's people from all sorts of backgrounds in London. It is the most diverse city in the country, and probably the most diverse city in Western Europe. But as I think the faith that you profess or don't profess, I think it's largely irrelevant. What matters is your values, your politics, your policies, what you're going to do for London. We're electing a mayor of London to serve all Londoners, and that means cutting crime. It means getting the tubes to run on time. It means freeing up congestion on the roads. It means building the houses that we need so we don't have that ever-escalating impossibility to get on the housing ladder. And together as a team, working alongside Layla and the work that we're doing in the Assembly and the work that our councillors will be doing when they get elected in May, I think Reform as a whole is absolutely poised to turn this city around and change politics for good.
How many councillors have you got on the London Assembly at the moment? It's not very many, is it? How many?
On the Assembly, we've got two members, so myself as group leader and Keith Prince, who joined us a couple of months ago from the Conservatives. On borough councils across London, I think we've got about 9 councillors, but obviously looking to get a whole lot more in May. There is real opportunities for us. I say the most recent polling, 3 out of the 4 last voting intention polls in London show Reform in second place. If we translate that into votes in real ballot boxes in those elections, then we're going to make a huge breakthrough. And one thing I would like everyone to remember, in 2016, when Sadiq Khan was elected as mayor for the first time, he actually got fewer votes than Leave got in the referendum. Okay, turnout very much different, obviously, we know that, but fundamentally the idea that London is a Reform unfriendly city is for the birds. The votes are there if we give people the reason to vote for us, and that reason is to turn this city around, to get our streets safe. It's such an important thing. We've got one real opportunity to do that. and that's what we're all fighting so hard to do.
Well, I'll tell you something, Alex. There is a lot of discontent out there in the capital city that not only Reform, all the opposition parties should be able to capitalise on, if you ask me. I mean, Sadiq Khan gets votes from the disaffected, from people. The thing about London is it's got this image, everyone who lives there is a millionaire and they all live in £5 million mansions. But actually the majority of people in this city struggle. They're not very well off, and this is the worst city, literally probably the worst city in the world not to have much money in. And those are the people who vote for Sadiq Khan, and he plays on that. But that said, I've never met anyone, and I'm not just talking about my circle of friends and, my right-wing friends, as they would say in the Guardian. I'm just talking about a cross-section. I've never met anyone who said, that's Sadiq Khan, he's great, he's got my vote. All I ever hear is people who hate him.
And that's because of his record on crime, on housing, on transport. And the cost. He's put up his share of the council tax by over 3/4 since he was elected in 2016. So we know about the cost of living crisis. Well, we have a cost of government crisis generally, and we absolutely, here in London, we have a cost of Khan crisis. So that's what we're up against. That's what we're fighting to overturn. And like I said, I'm really, really looking forward to being part of this challenge as we go forwards.
It's going to be exciting. Alex, great to talk to you. All the best. Alex Wilson, there, Reform UK's London Assembly member, one of the 2 councillors there at the moment in the main London assemblies, 9 around the boroughs, as he said. But like so many other areas in the country, it could be, the capital city could be poised for a kind of reform revolution. And if anyone's going to put it off, it'll be Layla Cunningham. She is a very impressive woman. There's no doubt about that. Let's go to break. When we come back, you remember the story we did last night, if you tuned in last night? Shocking story, absolutely shocking. That hundreds and hundreds of sex offenders, rapists, paedophiles, child sex abusers are being let off, avoiding any kind of punishment due to a system called community resolution. And on the basis that they say sorry to their victims, they get off scot-free. That's just outrageous. We're talking about people who rape children, allowed to say, oh, sorry about that. Oh, well, off you go then. It's got to stop. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Last night we covered, we led on this shocking story. It's extraordinary. I can't understand why more people aren't talking about it. Last year, 400 sex assaults, 166 paedophile offences, 20 grooming offences were basically brushed under the carpet on the basis that the perpetrators said sorry to their victims. Of these cases, 4 were actual child rapes. People who raped children were allowed to say sorry to their victims and then no further action. Unbelievable. This is called the Community Resolution Scheme. And I would say that it has to stop. This is ridiculous. Let's talk to the Chief Executive of Freedom from Abuse, Marilyn Hawes. Hi, Marilyn. I sent you this story today. Were you as shocked as I was when you read it?
I hadn't read it yesterday. I was absolutely outraged. I mean, this is the CPS, the crumbling prosecution service, in my view. I mean, saying sorry doesn't cut the mustard, does it? You haven't trodden on you haven't trodden on someone's toe. You've trodden all over their life, their soul, and everything. And that child is never ever, or adult is never ever going to forget it. And what really hacks me off about Starmer is that before he came in, God, oh, I can't believe he ever got voted in. But, you know, he actually did say it was a personal mission of his to actually stand up for violence against women and girls. Now, I'd be very interested to know how many of these children and adults were actually also men and boys, because everybody's fixated on violence against women, but it also happens against boys as well. But that being the case, sorry just doesn't actually cut it. I mean, you've got here, a community resolution order isn't even a criminal offence. It just means that you have been told, I had someone that was following me around. It wasn't quite stalking. This happened last year. And they got a community resolution order. And that just meant that this person couldn't be where I would normally go. But I mean, had I been raped by that person, I would have expected them to go into jail.
It goes like this, Marion. This is what's happened. This is what a kind of a mission creep. Community resolution deals were brought in for minor crimes.
And they really are minor.
Yeah, but what's happened is the police and the Crown Prosecution Service have allowed the remit of community resolutions to expand. And last year they were used to clear up 912 sex crimes. That means 17 serious sex offenders every week last year got away scot-free by saying sorry to their victims. Now, check this one out. The Humberside Police used a community resolution to conclude an investigation into the rape of a boy aged under 13. You know, this is what are they thinking?
I mean, truly, this country is run by a bunch of numpties. Numpties and wokies, that's what it's run by. I am outraged. And what gets me as well is, this is the quote from the Home Office. The Home Office said, we put our faith in them, don't we? Not.
No.
They said community resolutions, and they have said this themselves, are intended, and I quote, to be used for less serious offences or incidents of antisocial behaviour. Correct. These are not, you know, minor offences, less serious offences. This is unbelievably the worst thing you can ever do to a child or any human.
Yeah, 160,
awful.
166.
I know.
Paedophile sex abuse offences against children last year. 166, 400 sex assaults altogether. As I say, last year, this was up. The year before, they used community resolutions on about 600 serious sex offences. Last year, more than 900, which means they're coming in. That means 17 serious sex offenders. Some of them, people who rape children, are being let off by saying sorry. What is going on?
And what example does this say to anybody else in the community or in the country? I mean, it's awful. I mean, here we have again, police with a proportionate means of addressing lower level crime. Now, this is what they're getting away with, involving first-time offenders who show genuine remorse. Well, if they think a sex offender, a child rapist, a paedophile ever has genuine remorse, then quite frankly, they're barking at the moon, because they do not understand. I mean, give me strength, for goodness sake, because these people who are into these sort of crimes are liars, they're plausible, they're manipulative, they know how to play the system, they know how to protect themselves, and I have never met one, and I've been into prisons, I've never met one who was remorseful. The only remorse you get is because they've been caught, and this is a shocking example. The society in this country at the moment is utterly feral.
This is weird. I mean, I'll tell you what it feeds into, in my view, what we learned when old Hugh Edwards, the BBC...
Oh, don't start on that grubby
BBC's in-house paedophile, when he went to court, we learned, and everybody said, well, how come he didn't go to jail? And when we learned that there's essentially in this country a policy that paedophiles, no matter what they do on their first offence, don't go to jail. The Home Office, in terms of these community resolutions, said they are intended to be used for less serious offences or incidents of antisocial behaviour.
Yeah, like robbing a handbag.
Yeah, it says that the community resolutions provide the police with a proportionate means of addressing low-level crime. Raping a child is a low-level crime?
Well, you can't get any worse than that, can you?
No,
it's a complete,
you're right.
utter violation. How is that child going to feel when one day it gets older, maybe it's buried what's happened to it, and then 15 years later, that poor child has got anxiety, depression, is self-harming, maybe even tries to take its own life, because there has been no justice at all. And the other thing that they've got here, this method, it says here, was also used to deal with, wait for it, 173 crimes of exposure of voyeurism, right? And one person who actually admitted sexual exploitation of a child. Well, that's extraordinarily awful. But men and boys who expose themselves, who are voyeuristic, almost always it's a continuum into rape.
Yeah. I'll tell you another thing. The police said, in terms of this story, that the victim, normally, these resolutions normally require the victim to consent to this system, to be just apologised to, normally, which means that some victims of these serious sexual crimes get this imposed on them. They don't get justice. They don't have a say in it. It is forced upon them. This is outrageous, Marilyn.
It's absolutely awful. But if you think of a 10-year-old, say it's a 10-year-old that's been raped or touched up or whatever, I mean, little children don't really understand what they don't like it, but they really don't understand what life is going to be like for them going forward, having had that dreadful trauma meted on them, and for them to be coerced into saying, oh yes, I'll take an apology. It's outrageous. That in itself is abusive. It is I just cannot get my head around this at all. I really can't. It is absolutely abhorrent. It is the most heinous crime you can do. And there we are. You just say sorry. I mean...
this system has got to stop. It really has.
But the whole country is a ruddy mess. I mean, it's absolutely dreadful.
Let's not get started on that. We've only got another hour and a half of the show to go.
Can I be here till Easter, Kevin?
Yeah, we'll be here till next year, won't we? Listen, Marilyn, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Marilyn Hall's their Chief Executive CEO of Freedom from Abuse, who campaigns tirely against abuse of children. Good for her. That's outrageous, though, isn't it, that plan? Let's go to break. We'll take a couple of calls and I'll read some of the messages. So stick around.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to go to the phones in just a second, but folks, exciting. It's competition time. Here at Talk, we are welcoming the new year by giving away a massive £26,000. What better way to kick off 2026 than with the chance to win some serious cash? Yep, 26 grand. It's our biggest New Year cash giveaway, and it could be yours. It's 26k for 2026. Here's how to enter. For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. That's 83338. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate, or call 0343 423 9761. The lines close at 12 p.m. on January the 9th. That's midnight on January the 9th. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. That's UK for 18 people, 18 plus. You have to be over 18 years old. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's are at talksport.com/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now. And good luck. Right, let's get back to the phones. Good luck with that. I hope you win. I'm going to have a go at it myself. Because I could do it with 26 grand. I could do it with 26 quid, to be honest with you. Let's talk to Mandy in Felixstowe. Hi, Mandy.
Good evening, Kevin.
You're a mobility scooter user, I understand. What do you think? As Isabel Oakeshott said earlier in the show, I can't remember anybody calling a mobility scooter an invalid carriage, but if I saw you on your mobility scooter and I happened to say, oh, I see you're on your invalid carriage, would you find that offensive?
Yes, I would, because it's a mobility scooter, of which you can park outside a shop and use your walking stick to get around.
Okay,
things like that.
Uh-huh.
Where it says mobility... invalid carriages, all I visualise are those old blue cars years ago.
I remember those.
That only went forward and never reversed.
Yeah. I mean, I take your point. But I mean, do you think it's worth spending a great deal of money just to change the words on the 1970 law, so that we no longer say on our legislature invalid carriages, we say mobility scooters? I mean, do you think that matters that much?
Well, it's not an invalid thing. It is a mobility scooter. End of argument.
Mobility scooter? Mobility scooter, yeah.
Yes.
How long have you used one, Mandy?
Oh, God, a good 15 years now.
And is it a real passport to your independence?
Yes, it is, because without it, I'm stuck.
And how do you get a mobility scooter? I mean, does the government give you one, or do you have to buy it? How does that go?
No, you have to buy it.
Okay, so how much does one cost, if I may ask?
Oh, this one I've got now is about £2,000, but I got that on offer. Okay, so was that brand new, or is there a second-hand market in these as well? Actually, I think that was second-hand.
So did you say, Mandy, you've been using one for 15 years, yeah?
Yeah.
And how many have you owned now?
1, 2, 4. This is my fourth.
Well, so they go wrong a lot then?
They do.
Oh, do they?
After a while.
Okay.
You have to replace batteries, that sort of thing. But they're pretty reliable, you know.
And you go along the...
Me from A to B, and if I am in a car, I've got a little one that collapses down that can get lifted into a boot, and then we got out the other end to use, like with hospital appointments, that sort of thing.
Okay, so listen, I don't know if you were obviously listening to the show or watching the show earlier on, and Isabel Oakeshott and I said, oh, who cares about this? But it's really interesting that, you know, you phoned in and you do care about it. Invalid carriage is not what you believe a mobility scooter to be.
I don't class myself as an invalid.
No, quite right.
I am a lady, some might say not, but who has mobility issues.
Yes, nothing more than that. So you do think it's, we should defer to you. What do I know? You do find it basic. You find it offensive to call a mobility scooter an invalid carriage?
Yes. I'm not an invalid.
I can tell that. What colour is your mobility scooter, Mandy?
Red.
Red.
Like with the colour of the sun.
Yeah, and
newspaper.
And they come in all different colours, do they?
Yeah, my little one for the car's a gold one. You can get blue ones, black ones, all different colours.
How fast do they go?
Mine goes up to 8 miles an hour, but I will not use it on a road because, to me, they're a hazard, I think, to other drivers.
And are you, if you wanted to, would you be allowed to use it on the road?
Yes, I can, because it goes up to 8 miles an hour.
Oh, is that
That's
right?
what you're supposed to do.
But you stay on the sidewalk, on the pavement, yeah?
Yeah, to me, it's safer.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's for damn sure. Well, listen, Mandy, fascinating insight into the world of mobility scooters, seriously. And respect to you. And, I haven't used the word invalid carriage, I don't think ever. But I certainly will never again say that term out of respect for you and your fellow mobility scooter users. Thank you very much for an excellent call. Take care now. It's Mandy in Felixstowe. You've got to defer to the people who use mobility scooters, haven't you? If they don't like invalid carriage, OK, change the name. Just strikes me as a lot of money to spend just for a few words. But interesting to talk to Mandy there. Lovely lady. We're going to go to the news, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Nicole Lampert, a Jewish journalist, about the West Midlands police situation and just the basic question. Is there a suspicion that our police generally are pro-Palestine, anti-Israel, and maybe sometimes anti-Semitic? I think it's a question worth asking. What were the motivations of West Midlands Police with the Aston Villa match? We'll talk about that when we come back, so you better stick around.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the final hour of tonight's Political Asylum. Slightly different tonight, obviously. If you usually listen on the radio, we've had the football on the radio, the big game, Fulham-Chelsea. Fulham are 1-0 up. Good news. And we've been exclusively on YouTube. We'll be back to normal tomorrow, folks, so if you usually like to listen, you can listen tomorrow. This will happen very rarely. But thank you for all of you who've come over to watch on YouTube, and all of you who usually watch on YouTube. So for the next hour or so, we'll take some calls, we'll cover some stories, and first off, let's go back to that story we began with, because I think it deserves it warrants serious discussion. It's the story of Westminster Police, West Midlands Police, keep calling it Westminster, West Midlands Police, and its police chief, its chief constable, Craig Guilford, who stands accused of lying through his teeth. It certainly sounds like a very murky story about what happened a couple of months ago at Aston Villa, where the West Midlands Police colluded with the local council to say it wasn't safe to have Jewish fans coming to Villa Park because the local Muslim community wouldn't like it, and it would cause serious social tensions, and everybody capitulated, and therefore the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were banned from Aston Villa. Well, new details are arriving. Let's welcome to the show Jewish journalist Nicole Lampert. Welcome, Nicole.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me on today.
Always a pleasure. Now, let's play a few clips about what happened at this extraordinary parliamentary committee yesterday, almost an emergency committee, to try to get to the bottom of this increasingly murky story. First of all, this is West Midlands Chief Constable Craig Guilford denying that there was any kind of collusion with the local Muslim community, that in any way he had misrepresented what the Dutch police told him about Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. So let's have a listen to Chief Constable Guilford first of all.
It feels to us, from everything we've seen, that there was a need that you felt that you had to justify banning these fans, and that that scraping was done to find a reason.
Right. Well, that's absolutely not the case. I'm really sorry if it comes across in that way. That was absolutely not the case. The information, the intelligence that we received, that we documented, and we've shared absolutely all of that with HMIC FRS very, very recently, was all gone through. The mistake that was made in terms of the West Ham was one individual doing one Google search because he couldn't find the other, he couldn't find the reference because it wasn't there within the system.
Well, there's one side of the story. Now, MP Peter Prinsley obviously was taking all of that with a pinch of salt. Here he is confronting Chief Constable Guilford on this very issue.
Why are we only hearing about this now? Why is it that a report has come at lunchtime today from the Times newspaper that you had information on the 5th of September that there were likely to be vigilante groups within the West Midlands community itself who were planning to take action against the Maccabi fans? How is it that this committee is just hearing this for the first time?
Well, I think this is the first time specifically that you've asked for that detail. That's what we tried. Outrageous. That's what we tried to get across.
Absolutely outrageous.
See gasps of astonishment from the MPs there. And finally, this is Labour MP Joanne Reid putting her £6 in.
What I'm getting from this so far is that there's a range of different intelligence information sources. But correct me if I'm wrong, it feels that what you have done in that process is suppressed information that isn't consistent with the decision that you've made in intelligence, and released and published information which supports the decision to ban the away fans.
Yeah, so what this was what happened yesterday at this parliamentary committee. MPs clearly not believing a word that Craig Guilford said. So his story originally was, in terms of this Europa Cup League tie in Birmingham at Villa Park, we can't have the Jewish fans here, the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans here, because when they went to Amsterdam earlier last year, they caused hell, they caused havoc. The Dutch police have told us, watch out for this lot, they are troublemakers, they're too much to handle. And at that point, West Midlands Police said, we can't guarantee the safety of Jewish fans, therefore they can't come. We have now learned, or Craig and his acolytes have just revealed, that actually they were working on, well, they claimed to be working on information from the local Muslim community, that if the police allowed the Jewish fans to come, the Tel Aviv fans to come, the Muslim community had, or members of the Muslim community had said, we will take up arms and we will attack them. There will be a war. Therefore, the West Midlands Police and the local council decided the safety concerns were too great and therefore the Jewish fans were banned. Well, okay, here's the problem. The Dutch police have said, well, we have no idea what he's talking about. We told him no such thing. We did not tell him that the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans would definitely cause trouble. And in fact, the truth of what happened in Amsterdam, it's not that the Maccabi fans don't have a bit of a reputation. A lot of clubs do. But when they went to Amsterdam, there were Muslim groups around, Palestine flags flying everywhere, and there were Muslim groups around the city who said they were on a Jew hunt. And they leapt on these Tel Aviv fans, and that's why the trouble unfolded. So arguably, the Tel Aviv fans didn't start it. So the Dutch fans saying, what you said, Chief Constable Guilford, we didn't tell you. So he stands accused, basically, of lying through his teeth about why he banned Jewish fans from attending this match, and he stands accused, as Kemi Badenoch said, of capitulating to Islamist extremists and collaborating with them in a calculated cover-up. I think she's right, don't you?
I completely agree, and I don't know why any of those police officers still have their jobs today after what we all saw in Parliament yesterday, where it became clearer and clearer. I watched the whole proceedings, as the time went on, that they were just covering stuff up, and this news story that was in the Times that came out just before the hearing was almost like the final piece of the puzzle, which was they knew that there was a threat to Israeli fans who were coming, and they knew as early as September, which was quite soon after the draw had come. So they knew nothing to do with Amsterdam or anything like that. They knew that there was going to be an Islamicist threat against the Israelis because they were Jewish and because of the war, and that was the only reason. And in some ways, the most astonishing thing, well, there's two astonishing things. One is they covered up this intent of violence. They didn't arrest anyone for trying to start trouble. Instead, they covered it up. And then not only did they cover it up, they then blamed the Israelis. They blamed the Jewish community and said, "Oh, it's all because they're hooligans." And they even said that, just a day or two before the actual game, they basically said, it's because there's too many hooligans. And that was the story that went around, and that was kind of the story that was believed. And those of us that had followed what happened in Amsterdam and seen that it was a lot more nuanced. And as I say, of course there is a hooligan element, and they did all of take down a Palestine flag. They did sing some horrible songs, but they were in Israeli, so probably most people wouldn't understand them. And like, for example, the police talked about the Israeli fans knocking people into the river, but there was only one person that was thrown into the river, and that was an Israeli fan, and the Islamists would only let him out if he said "Free Palestine." And what we saw in Amsterdam was families even being targeted. There were 400 Israelis, they were at a casino, and they were targeted there. So, and what we've seen really is, to me, it opens a core of what's going on in our country, which is they are frightened of the Islamic threat. They are caving into it. Rather than fighting it, and it's not just it's not just Jewish people that this worries. This worries everyone. It includes secular Muslims who hate to be tarnished with this Islamist brush. But this is where we are in our country, because they have been allowed to get away with this. And if these police chiefs, and if there is not a thorough investigation, then they have got away with something, which means they will then do it again and take it further.
Well, if Craig Guilford and his acolytes, his police acolytes at West Midlands Police are telling the truth about the Muslim communities, or shall we say Muslim extremists telling them, look, if these Jewish fans arrive in the city, there will be trouble, we will take up arms. If he's telling the truth about that, as a copper, what he should have said immediately was, let me tell you, I'm an officer of the law, and if you even contemplate that, you'll be arrested. In fact, it's arguably they should be arrested at that point. He should uphold the law. You're not allowed to say that. Instead, what did he say? According to his story, oh, well, in that case, we better be a bit careful here. And then, according to the narrative that seems to be emerging here, he kept that quiet because, of course, to announce, well, we're not letting these Jewish fans come because, the Muslims here, they're going to kill them. He couldn't announce that. So, and I say, I'm not saying this is 100% the truth. I'm saying this is the narrative that seems to be emerging. So instead of telling the truth about this threat from the extremists in Birmingham, let's not besmirch the entire Birmingham Muslim community, he pretended that the Dutch police, the Amsterdam police, told him, well, if you let this lot come over, you're asking for big trouble. Dutch police said, we didn't say that. We didn't say that.
And there were reports saying that. There were the Dutch police did 3 different reports, the police, the council, and then there were court cases as well. So the truth of what happened did emerge, and there was, as you said at the start, there was a Jew hunt, and it was mainly cab drivers and scooters, and they were all talking via WhatsApp on their Jew hunt, talking about where are the Jews. And they were even stopping people in the street and asking to see their passports, demanding to know if they were Israelis or not. And if they were, then they were beating them up. And that was the extent of it. And that was, to anyone, to people like me who had kept an eye on that, people called that a pogrom. They saw it for what it was, which was violence in Europe against Jews for the first time in many, many decades.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I want to ask you, Nicole, as a tireless campaigner on this front, is it just strikes me that this is indicative of the kind of attitude we get from police forces all over the land, particularly in the Met Police here in London. But certainly West Midlands Police seem to be guilty of it. It is this. My question to you is, when you look at this kind of situation, when you look at what happens with these pro-Palestine marches, which are basically Jew hate marches, and the cops just look on and don't do anything about it. Do you think that the police around this country, but particularly in West Midlands and London, are institutionally pro-Palestine, anti-Israel and potentially anti-Semitic?
It's complicated, but I would also bring into that Somerset and Avon and the fact that they spent 6 months deciding whether death for the IDF was an anti-Semitic, it was worth arresting someone, or the kneecap stuff as well. Yeah. So I think what it is more, and I do need to say that because of all the threats against Jews from Islamists, from the far right, from the far left, we have to be protected by the police. So there is a part of us that we rely on them, and when there have been attacks such as Bondi or Manchester, there are police outside our schools, so they do help us in that way. I would see it more as just as a car was stolen outside my house and the police didn't even bother coming, and I think it's partly it's too much like hard work, and partly they don't want to They don't want. They see where the threat is. So with the demonstrations, for example, they were arresting people afterwards, only after they'd been pictured with a dodgy. Even though people were at the demonstrations, Jewish people were saying, "Look, that guy's got a swastika." It was like, and they'll just let them go, and then they might then do a picture saying we need to arrest this person, but it just feels partly like they're just not that bothered about it. And I'm not sure whether that's because they are frightened themselves, which is frightening in itself, and which certainly makes me think about Birmingham, because I think that is, the police were frightened about what would happen if Israelis were allowed in, and they're afraid to even say that they're frightened. And I think there is an element where they were frightened to even try and arrest people from this mob. And it's, in some ways, it's not surprising. You can see the way they're behaving outside some of the prisons where some of these hunger strikers are, these ones that are kind of hunger striking for every other day type thing. Yeah. They're trying to get into prisons, and so these are dangerous extremists, and I think by appeasing them for 2 years or longer, they've allowed them to get away with it, and they just become more extreme, and we're now at a kind of boiling point in our society. Is like, when do we say enough? Like, why has no one been sacked today? Why have we not said enough yet?
Yeah, I would suggest, so Kemi Badenoch, and she wasn't the only one, she led the charge, the chorus of disapproval, if you like, having watched this frankly bizarre performance by Guildford and his West Midland cop pals today in Parliament. And she tweeted that Craig Guildford capitulated to Islamists and then collaborated with them to cover it up. She went on to say, "We've had enough of this in Britain. The Chief Constable's position is untenable." I do think that in this instance, this guy's head has to roll, doesn't it?
Why hasn't it already? Like, where's Keir Starmer? Where's Shabana Mahmood? Why aren't they talking about this? Why? And again, it feels like this appeasement where it's just like, if we pretend it's not there, then it will go away. But the opposite is happening. If we pretend it's not there, then they gain power and they become more dangerous. And that is exactly what is happening. That, to the point where the police in the West Midlands were too frightened to allow Israeli fans in, which is essentially what happened. They were too frightened of what the response would be. And it's, I kind of wish that we're now at that time where people would say, we can't handle this.
Yeah. Well, what we have to do, Nicole, the police have to do their job. What they should have done all the way along in this saga was protected the right of the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans to follow their team and watch the match at Villa Park. That's a human right. That's the police's job. Yeah. And certainly, if he's telling the truth, old Guildford, he said, "Well, I was warned by the Muslim community." Suddenly told this today. Thanks very much for leaving it so long. I was told by the Muslim community they'd take up arms. And I thought, well, the best thing to do was to stop the Jewish fans coming. No, he should have arrested the Islamists right there and then. That's against the law. It's unbelievable what is going on. Nicole, really good to talk to you as always, and stay strong. That is Nicole Lampert, a tireless campaigner for Israel and Jewish affairs here in Britain. Old colleague of mine, by the way. But what do you think about what she's saying? What do you think about this guy, this copper, suddenly revealing today, what I didn't say before was, the Islamists said that they were going to take up arms and I couldn't have a war on my patch. And when asked, well, why didn't you tell us this before? Why have you only said this now? So, well, no one asked us. What the hell is going on? No one asked us. Unbelievable. Let me know what you think about that. 03444991000. We're going to cover a few more stories when we come back, so stay where you are.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's return to Labour's plans for a near zero tolerance on drink driving. They're going to basically make it, or they want to make it so that you can only have 1 pint or even less before you get behind the wheel. Any more than that and you will fail the breathalyzer and be banned from 18 months. None of us approve of drink driving, of course. But a lot of people are saying, well, leave us alone. Why are you doing this? This is the first time these laws have changed since 1967. There are no real statistics to show that this will make the roads safer. Why are you doing this? But the real worry is for people like my next guest, people who are running pubs, landlords, the hospitality business. They're in enough trouble as it is, and this will prevent more people going to the pub. Let's talk to the spokesman for my favourite campaign, which is No Labour MPs in Pubs. He's the landlord of the Old Thatch pub in Dorset, Andy Lennox. He's on the phone. Welcome, Andy.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm all right. Well, before we get to your excellent campaign to keep Labour MPs out of the pubs, I think you should expand it. We should ban them from all sorts of things, you know, like public life, that kind of thing. But seriously, if this law comes in, and let's face it, it probably will because of Labour's majority, you'll only be allowed to have less than 1 pint. People won't come to the pub at all, will they? How damaging do you think this might be, Andy, to the pub industry?
Well, look, I mean, we're the nail in the coffin for all pubs, and don't get me wrong, it's an awful thing to bring in. Don't get me wrong, we don't want to see death on our streets or anything like that, or anything like that. But on the flip side, a rural pub, it depends on those people coming in there for a pint and then going home. But let's be honest, it's just detracting from the real issues, and it's just Labour the government at the moment, just trying to basically palm us on into another conversation, which we're not going to do. Ultimately, at the end of the day, business rates, VAT, these are the problems. It's not about rural pubs.
Yeah, and also, I just think, as you quite rightly say, Andy, none of us condone drink driving. It's a terrible thing, and you never want to see the relatives of people who've been killed by a drunk driver. It's a heartbreaking, terrible, terrible thing to do. But do we need this new law? I mean, the existing law for drink driving has been in power since 1967. No changes since then. Suddenly they're going to bring it hurtling downwards.
It's incredibly interesting, isn't it, that it's just come in just now when we're actually starting to make some kind of inroads into getting into government and actually trying to make our voice heard, that they've now issued this kind of, this is what we're going to do. It's another licensing, the whole licensing measures thing. It makes no sense. None of it makes any sense.
Unless we were discussing this earlier in the show, that maybe it's some kind of dead cat tactic to try and divert us from the serious issues that we should be worried about.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And did you see it as a landlord? Did you see this coming? Because I hadn't heard any indications about this. Had you?
No, not at all. Nothing at all. And we've been told to be quiet and shut up. And, we've been told that if we keep on, making noise and we keep on, doing what we're doing, we won't get anything. Well, we're not going to be told to, we're the third biggest industry in the UK. We employ 3 million people. We're not going to just be quiet. And I think they're throwing everything at the moment at us. Licensing measures, we're going to open till 1 o'clock in the morning. Nobody needs us to open up until 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. It's not, we don't need to do that. And then again, licensing laws, we're not going to be able to go to the rural pub because you won't be able to have a pint. They're just throwing as much as they possibly can to try and detract from the real thing that we're trying to talk about.
Yeah, but why are they attacking pubs? Is it because they're killjoy Puritans? Do you remember their plan not so long ago to ban smoking in pub gardens? Everybody goes, well, what's that for? And even they back down on that one. But it just seems they don't like pubs because people enjoy themselves in pubs. And somehow or other, these socialists don't like people enjoying themselves.
It's not about enjoying yourself in a pub. It's about a pub as a community, and that's where you chat. It's where you have conversation. It's where you discuss things. And, you know, one of the biggest problems that I've had as bringing in this whole no Labour MP thing was that, you know, oh, well, you're trying to shut down conversation. No, we're trying to open up conversation. And if you shut down pubs, you close down conversation. And I don't think it's a Puritan thing. I don't think it's, you know, in that sense, I think it's trying to shut down conversation, trying to shut down, you know, we all talk in a pub. You go to the pub, you have a pint, you chat about world affairs, you chat about what's going on. You know, they are the community hubs.
But why do they seem to be so against pubs? This is an undoubted attack on the welfare of our boozers, isn't it?
This is not just pubs. This is hospitality. They are going after hospitality. I mean, this is not just pubs. It's restaurants. It's hotels. It's everything. They're going after hospitality like an.
But why?
Like
Why, Andy? Why, Andy? Do you think?
Because they don't deem us to be a organised. You know, proper, you know, job. You know, ultimately, at the end of the day, they look at us and they say, well, oh, you know, everyone has their first job in hospitality and everybody is in hospitality, but it's not really a proper job. But actually, it is. And you know what? We employ 3 million people. We're the third biggest employer in the country. We generate 60 billion in tax. We're a big deal. The problem is they don't recognise us as being a big deal, and that's what we've got to change.
Now, you're a country pub. You're in Dorset. I don't know how far out in the country
I've got one very far out in the country, and
so
you know, this would really hurt.
This will be devastating for that, won't it?
Yeah, because ultimately we already see it now. You know, you don't get drinkers. You have passerbys. You know, someone who will drop in for a bit of food and a pint. But if they can't drop in for a bit of food and a pint, then what is the point of that pub being there?
Yeah,
they need to be able to have a pint. You know, just one. We're not saying 2. We're not saying 3. We're just saying you have to be able to have one.
And also, the other thing I would think about this is, you know, nothing is ever perfect. Of course, we'd love a perfect world where everybody was ultimately responsible and never had a drink before they got behind the wheel. But you will know this. The vast majority of motorists are responsible about this. I said earlier in the show, even I am. Even I don't drink and drive, which is a real signal to how many people are responsible on this issue.
As are the vast majority of publicans.
That's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that this government, it's like they don't trust us, do they? Treat us like children.
It's kind of like we don't need to be policed that much.
Exactly.
Publicans police that. You know, ultimately, at the end of the day, if I see someone that they're going to drive, you're going to say, look, you know, don't have another one. You know, we're not those kind of people that go, oh, you know, I'll have to have 3 more and have 6 shots. You know, it's not. That's not what it is. I mean, one of my pubs out in the sticks, it's a foodie destination. So you go there, you're going there for the food. But you're going to have a pint. You might have a small glass of wine.
Exactly.
You know, you're going to do that, and it's overreach. You just don't need any government to look into it. But what they're trying to do right now is detract from what we have literally absolutely pile drive through over the last 6 weeks. You know, this whole campaign has absolutely gone to the heart of government, and they are scared.
Yeah.
And they are trying to throw as much as they possibly can in different places. Oh, we're going to open till 1 a.m. Oh, we're going to open till this. We're going to do this. We're going to now, you know, change driving laws. They're trying to do everything they possibly can to detract from what we're actually asking for, which is we need the business rates to basically be sorted, but also we need a VAT cut in line with Europe at 13%. That is the key. That is the key.
Listen, Andy, come on again soon. Really good to talk to you. All the best.
Yeah, good to chat to you.
And Andy Lennox, landlord of the Old Thatch pub in Dorset. I mean, what do you think about what he says? 03444991000. Keep saying, don't get me wrong, drink driving is a terrible thing. No one condones it. But do we need this law? Do we? First time since 1967, as Andy said. What is this all about? It's weird, don't you think? 03444991000. When we come back, there's a new TV drama in the works. It's about Hugh Edwards. It's going to be on Channel 5. We'll talk about that next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. As we said earlier in the show, Channel 5, or 5 as they like to call themselves now, whatever happened to the channel, Channel 5, are going to make a TV drama. It's going to star Martin Clunes, you know, Doc Martin, men behaving badly. In fact, he's going to play a man behaving very badly, a man called Hugh Edwards, the BBC's in-house paedophile until he was forced to leave in disgrace, now a convicted child sex abuser. They're going to make a two-part factual series. It has a working title called Power, The Downfall of Hugh Edwards. And it's going to be a collaboration between 5's factual and scripted commissioning teams, blah, blah, blah. Now, this will heap great embarrassment on the BBC, but I wonder if it would be worth watching. Will it be entertaining? But it certainly will highlight the most embarrassing saga of recent times for the state broadcaster. Let's talk to former BBC presenter Sally Jones. Welcome, Sally.
Hi, good to see you. I mean, I cannot believe that that this is going to be screened. It's just a sort of personal tragedy being aired, and I think it's utter prurient sensationalism and a ratings grab, and I think they should be ashamed of themselves.
Do you think it's a bit like when the BBC did a drama about Jimmy Savile?
Well, I mean, I think it's all of a piece, actually. I mean, I think it's obviously there was a lot of question at the time about whether or not the BBC paid Hugh Edwards' salary after they knew what he was going to be accused of, and they'd already ascertained that, you know, it seemed to be that he was guilty of this. And so obviously he may well be making money from this, because I assume that he has collaborated with Channel 5. And,
well, we better be a bit careful about that.
The sort of Hugh Edwards lookalike, who himself has his own skeletons in his cupboard. But, you know, I presume that, I mean, Hugh Edwards may feel that this is the only way that he can actually make money.
Well, we don't know. We don't know that. Well, we don't know whether or not he's going to get any money. I mean, you don't have to pay him any money. You can just do it. I mean, as I say, you say it. I mean, I take your point. I mean, it's a strange new syndrome in television drama, but you called it prurient, and Channel 5 should be ashamed of themselves. But the BBC, they made a drama series about Jimmy Savile, Steve Coogan playing the main star role. So it just seems to be a new trend in television. My guess would be, Sally, there's no way 5 will be paying Hugh Edwards. He'll just have to put up with it. That's the way it goes. That's the way the cookie
Well, I mean,
crumbles.
he will have to put up with it, but I have a feeling, because I understand he's recently had a load of publicity stills taken, and people were saying, is he mad? Does he really think he's going to make a comeback? Well, it may well be that this is why he's had those publicity stills taken, because he thinks that this is somehow, well, he might make some money from it if he collaborates with the makers of it, because I think it would make the programme far more sensationalist and prurient if he were part of it than if they were simply doing it with somebody who's a lookalike, you know, with no input from him. I mean, in a way, it's a bit like, it's like a modern day version of the scandalous story of the rector of Stiffkey, who was, I think, for some sort of sexual shenanigans in the 1930s, he was defrocked. And he started displaying himself on Blackpool seafront, and he was eventually killed when he was in a lion's cage on Skegness seafront, and you know, that was all due to him trying to make a few bob.
Trying to make cash in on his own.
As far as I know, this may well be exactly what Hugh Edwards is doing.
Well, I would personally, well, we don't know the details. I'd be personally very, very surprised if Channel 5, or 5 as they now call themselves, are in any kind of arrangement with a convicted paedophile, as in Hugh Edwards, at all. I don't think they will do that.
I think that if you're desperate enough for money, and you're asked to do it.
Yeah, but if you were Channel 5, would you do that? I wouldn't. I wouldn't do a deal with a convicted paedophile. Doesn't make them look like very responsible broadcasters, would it?
I think if I were absolutely on my uppers, and I can't tell. I know never ever be in that position, but I think at times
Hugh Edwards
you'll
might
do anything just to get in a few bob, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but Hugh Edwards might take the money, but I'm saying that I don't think in a month of Sundays, Channel 5 as they now call themselves, will be giving him any money. I think they'll just do this without any involvement from Edwards at all.
I think if they manage to get Edwards being interviewed or speaking about it, the chances are he will have some sort of excuse, like mental health, or all the things that people, or they've now got religion, or all the reasons that people usually give for having transcended their past evils. It may well be that there's something like that. Why else would he be having these various publicity photos taken? Because I don't suppose he's going to be asked to open too many garden fetes at the moment.
That's for damn sure. I mean, will you watch it? I will.
I'm afraid I will, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So you said it's prurient, but there's something very compelling about it, isn't there?
we are all prurient. I mean, one of my guilty pleasures used to be watching Jeremy Kyle. My children used to laugh like
it
brains.
still is
I
one.
like
It
reading
still is
Viz,
one of
you know,
mine, Sally.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah, well, you can watch them every day on Talk here on this channel. But see, I mean, it's an interesting project, controversial, I agree. As I say, we don't know the details, but it would be interesting. See, if in any way Hugh Edwards is going to give them proper interviews, that this will be part drama and part factual interviews, and Hugh Edwards is interviewed, that would be pretty sensational. What do you think, just before you go, Sally? Good to talk. Thank you for coming on. What do you think of the casting of Martin Clunes as Hugh Edwards? I can see sort of slight physical similarities.
Yeah, I mean, not only do they, I mean, they're both 64. They both look, I mean, Clunes, though he's more of a sort of clunky, kind of slightly hobbitish looking guy, but they obviously, prosthetics and things can make people look incredibly like, I mean, there was a very funny thing where, who was it? Dominic West.
Yeah, he played
suddenly noticed the similarity with Fred West and actually played him.
Yeah.
But also, I think Clunes has got his own skeletons in his cupboard, so there is that sort of sense of slight moral ambivalence about that actor, which in a way, that may be partly why he was cast.
Has he got skeletons in his cupboard? I've never heard of any skeletons in Martin Clunes' cupboard. I'm going to have to well, I'll look that up. But
you look back about 20 years.
All right, I will. But
I won't mention it. But you have a look.
I'll look it up. But in the meantime, Martin Clunes remains Doc Martin, a very much loved, beloved actor. But Sally, good to talk to you, and you and I will both be tuning in to the Hugh Edwards story when it happens. Thank you very much for joining me. Sally Jones, their former BBC presenter on the Hugh Edwards drama. It's going to be on Channel 5. Now, I want to say for the record, but Sally, I would be stunned, shocked, if Channel 5 have entered into any kind of financial arrangement with Hugh Edwards. I don't think they would even contemplate that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I doubt it. I very much doubt it. If this project will involve actual interviews with Hugh Edwards, that'll be fascinating. As Sally said, perhaps it's not the most morally uplifting of projects, but you can't deny it's compelling, isn't it? I'll be tuning in, I guarantee you that. The Hugh Edwards story, coming soon to a TV screen near you. Right, after the break, we're going to go to break now. We've got some phone calls, I've got some messages, and we'll talk to you, so that's what it's all about. And at 10 p.m, Petri Hoskin will take over the helm of the Good Ship Talk. She'll be in about 15 minutes or so. So much still to come. Stay where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just getting in pictures. We've now seen some pictures of Martin Clunes with prosthetics on, looking kind of like a kind of really scary. There it is. There it is. If you're watching, like a really scary version of Hugh Edwards. I do not believe for a second that Channel 5 will have given Hugh Edwards a single penny for this, nor would they contemplate such an act. You don't pay convicted paedophiles in the entertainment world. You just don't do it. Also, Martin Clunes, to my knowledge, has never been involved in any kind of scandal. So I'm not sure where that came from either. I was just trying to set the record straight there. So we look forward to the role. Martin Clunes looks extraordinary. Let's go to the phones. A few minutes left before we hand over the helm to Petri Hoskin. First up, let's talk to Karen from Bournemouth. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Kevin. How are you doing?
I'm very, very well. What would you like to say? You want to talk about West Midlands Police, yeah?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be able to...
Oh, there's Elsa again. Always Elsa, every time you come on.
No, you don't do it for everybody.
It's just for me, is it? I have that effect on dogs. But anyway, let's. What would you like to say, Karen?
Well, firstly, I think that the Craig Gifford and the other blokes should be prosecuted for anti-Semitism. They should be sacked for gross misconduct in public office. But also, too, the person who started this all off was the MP with his petition, and he said the same things about, you know...
His name Yaqub, isn't it? Yaqub is his name, yeah.
He said in the when he was advertising his petition that the Macquarie fans and the Amsterdam stuff.
Yeah.
So he should be in trouble as well.
Well, I you know, the thing is, he didn't take any sort of I disapprove of his petition. Jeremy Corbyn was a part of it, but he didn't take any significant decisions based on correct or incorrect. So I'm not sure about him, but I do think Craig Guilford should consider his future, don't you?
Well, they better not give him a pension, else I won't be paying any tax.
Of course he'll get a pension, you know that. You'll probably find...
Yeah? If they sack him, don't they stop their pension?
No, not necessarily. You have to do something really heinous to lose your pension. So I don't know if he... My guess is he'll quietly step down in 6 months and get his full pension.
Well, that's disgusting.
It is disgusting.
Welcome to the Islamist state of West Midlands.
That's exactly what it is. Exactly right. Listen, Karen, the show's nearly over, but always good to talk to you and Elsa. Thank you very much for calling. As always, call again soon. Karen in Bournemouth there, a couple of messages, texts that have come in. This is Lynn. Lynn says, what kind of a message are the police giving out when they admit they cannot control radical Muslims? It's a very good point. This is Hayley in Surrey talking about the fact that sex offenders are getting off by saying sorry. Evening, Kev, I'm just getting so angry listening to yourself and your fabulous guest Marilyn, that's Marilyn Hawes. What a sick world we are living in, where child rapists and the like are getting away with it. I have always believed that these criminals were despised in prison. Now they don't even go there. It's true, they are despised in prison, but now there seems to be a new system. If they say sorry, they get off. What's that all about? Good point, Hayley. Yeah, we've got plenty of time for another call. Let's go to Joan in Sunderland. Hello, Joan.
Hello, Kevin. I've just been listening to you and Isabel talking about what happened at that Aston Villa.
Yeah, the Aston Villa game, yeah.
Yes, what a load of rubbish. I think all those people involved should be sacked, not given the chance to resign. And it's getting to a point now where Parliament should say something about two-tier policing, It makes
You're right, Joan. This is serious two-tier policing. One rule for the Birmingham Muslim community, and it's definitely another rule for the Jewish community, and indeed the Jewish fans from Tel Aviv, who had every right, in my view, to attend that match.
They did. It was anti-Semitism and nothing else. And let's face it, policing and the law, it makes no difference whether you're black, white, brown, or any shade in between. It should matter nothing about your religion or your gender. One level playing field for all. And I hope police chiefs take notice now, because there's a few more heads need to roll.
Yep.
And I've got one in my sight, and that's
What's that?
Avon and Somerset.
Oh my God, you're so right. You mean letting off Bob Villan?
Bob Villan, yes.
Deciding there were no charges to answer when he called for the death of Jews.
Nearly 6 months it took that case to come. No charge to answer. So I'll be watching her, and I'll be watching him to see if he does it again, because that was disgusting. And we cannot take this anymore. It is unfair, and it has to stop. And if Parliament won't do it, it's up to the silent majority to say enough.
Enough is enough. Absolutely, Joan. Really well said. Couldn't agree more with every word you said. The show's nearly over, so I've got to go now, but it's always good to talk to you, Joan. Thank you for an excellent call. Joan in Sunderland. They can quickly get Janice in Essex in the mix. Hello, Janice.
Hi, Kevin. You know I love you, mate.
Yeah. I know you are. Hi, Janice. You want to talk about Ukraine? What would you like?
I know I've got quick, but can we start talking about what Starmer is doing to get us back in the EU?
Oh God, yeah.
That is a bigger picture.
He's doing a lot.
I'm not minimising anybody's rapes and everything. I'm not minimising that, but we need to stand up before Starmer takes us in the back door and overrides a public vote. And it was. And I think we're all going to sit here and let him do it.
He's saying he's doing it on purpose now.
The man is a traitor.
He's doing it on purpose now. He's a traitor to democracy because he's trying to betray the Brexit. Well, he's trying to betray the Brexit vote. It's as simple as that. Yeah.
That's what he's going to do. And we're all going to sit here and we're going to moan about all the other little bits of rubbish that's going on. And we're not talking about the big stuff. And I know your channel talks about the big stuff. There's only one other that does it. Only one other. I want you to keep calling out what this man's doing. He's an absolute traitor to his country.
I think you're right. That's the thing I think about Labour, is or the cabinet, is they don't seem to like Britain. They don't like Britain, do they? That is the point.
No, he hates Britain. He's an absolute horrendous person for this country.
Well said, Janice.
If he could still his grandmother, I think he would.
He probably would. Janice, good to talk to you. Thanks for ringing. Bye. Janice in Essex there. Show's almost over. Quick text here from Suresh in Leeds saying, it's funny how Starmer can send military tanks to Ukraine but can't stop the dinghies at our own coastlines. A pathetic, weak and very strange Prime Minister.